Welcome back to the HR Morning Show, your go-to for fresh ideas, bold conversations, and a lot of fun to kick off your week. I'm Danielle Farage. I'm joined by Brian Fink, claps all around, and Mike Peditto. And today is a big day. Welcome to the show, guys. We are back from our summer break. That's right. We took a 2-week hiatus for the summer, and we're back and tanner than ever. And we have a lot going on. School's starting, conference season's starting. We have another huge acquisition to discuss among some amazing news, especially in the room, Mike, with your new book. We'll talk about that. Congratulations on it becoming a number one. In what
Thank
what
you.
category?
Not enough. Right now, it is the number one career book on Amazon. We have more work to do.
All right. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. But I just want to say welcome, and I'm so excited to have you both on hosting with me this week.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm not tanner than ever, so I'm looking at you two because that must be you. But I'm excited. Good morning.
Well, Mike, you've got Labor Day weekend ahead of you, right? Like this is an opportunity for you to take a great book like this one, head out to the pool, catch a few rays, and learn how you can be judged.
That's true. I might just grab this book and go
Good
outside.
time to shine.
And maybe lay around for like 1 minute before my kids are like, "What are you doing? This is not what Labor Day weekend is about for you."
Oh my gosh.
Mike, do your kids ask you why your name is on the front of the book? Because my daughter asked me why my name is on the front of Talk Tech to me, and I was like, well, because I wrote it. And she was like, yeah, sure you did, Dad.
I told my kids I was writing a book. I told them about this. They didn't care at all. But this is sort of a funny story. So my son knows about what I do. And a while ago when I was at an old job, I had to tell him I had like a really hard day. We were doing layoffs. And I was like, yeah, I had to let a lot of people go from their jobs. And like, it's hard conversations to have. And he was asking about this book because, again, it helps people get jobs. It's the number one book of that. And he just goes, but your job's to fire people. I'm like, well, okay. Like I'm glad that is what you think and probably go and tell people about me now. But maybe now you can go and tell people I help people as well.
Yeah, hopefully it's just that now. That's the narrative that we're telling. Yeah. And telling people that they're being judged, because that's the realist approach.
Yeah, we do love a good judging.
But I just want to remind everyone that we are live. Yeah, very live every Tuesday. We're also on a mission to hit 2,000 followers on LinkedIn. So if you haven't done that, please hit the follow button. And while you're at it, feel free to drop your coffee order in the comments. I'm drinking a nice Nespresso with some almond milk creamer. Yes, it is the fancy Califia Farms pistachio with no additives. Yeah, that's right. I'm drinking the fancy stuff because you can't cheap out on your health. And what is everyone else drinking? I'm just curious. Do we have any coffee drinkers in the room? Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's cheer it up, right? Steve Levy's raising a cup of coffee to everybody too. What does that say, Mike?
It says apply to the job, apply to the job, apply to the job.
Okay, all right. They messed mine up this morning. They only gave me one Splenda. I need 6 so I can kind of get this hair up and so I don't glow in the dark, right?
Dang. Why are they skimping out on you?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's crazy. But before we jump into headlines, Mike, tell us what's going on with the book. Tell us like how you're feeling. It's such a big day. I feel like we're so honored to share the space with you right now. You're a newly minted author. Should we call you Michael now? Like how is it all? How is it?
I now go by my full name, which is Michael John Anthony Peditto. That is how you can all refer to me from now on. It is the most Italian name you can possibly have. Raised Italian Catholic name. It feels good. There's in the comments we're talking about mushroom coffee, and that has very much distracted me for the for the morning. And I best of luck there. But no, it feels great. This book has been a work in progress for several months. I cannot keep it on camera.
I'm going to keep it on camera. I'll
Fink
put it
and
on
I
camera.
actually have collector's item covers at this point. Anyone who purchases it will never get that book. The new title is in white. It is the capitals make sense. Each letter is capitalized. It is supposed to be, and it is centered. So if you ever see one of these yellow ones, know that you have a collector's edition, one of very few. But it's been great. It's been a ton of work, a lot of time. Turns out writing a book is hard, and a lot of time went into it, and great support from so many people, especially on like the Purple Acorn team, helping to get it out. And the response was amazing, right? You never know when you do something like this. You never know when you put it out there what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, starting to get emails back that were like, "Oh, I purchased it," or comments on LinkedIn. I got a DM on LinkedIn yesterday that just said you were all over my feed. So, that's the hope when something like that happens. And to wake up and refresh my phone and see that it had a number one in the careers chart was just exciting. I don't know what that means. I don't know how many sales that is. I don't have any numbers behind that, but it's enough to do that, and that's one of those things you just kind of hope will happen one day.
Mhm. Wow, that is so cool. I'm so happy for you. I guess my copy must have gotten lost in the mail thanks to Evan White. But I won't hold it against you, Mike. I'll just take it up with Evan another time.
Yeah,
That's
you will.
Evan
You will.
White at evanwhite.com. If you want
Evan
to,
White PR.
I will say the
Wanna hit him
acknowledgement
up.
section of this book is like pretty fire. I do not hold back on like good and bad that's in it. And I had someone who texted me, someone who got the advanced copy of the book, and they're like, "Well, how come this person got mentioned ahead of me?" And I was just, yeah, this is the battle I was trying to make happen. But if it makes you
Huh,
feel better, they have to buy the book, and you have yours for free right now. So I think that's a good trade off.
so
very
Mike, actually, as you're talking about parts of the book that jump out, I love the little Mike's tips, like with the little, like, please tell me you're keeping the little graphic of Mike kind of
Hmm.
injecting a little extra adage to the conversation, because I felt that was really good. I thought it was very personal. I really felt that it drove home the message that you care, and that's where I think this book comes from. Right? It's not just a book for the sake of having a book. It's a book because you really want to propel people from better to best, and that's what my takeaway was.
For sure, yeah, and I hope that comes through. Like, when people like ask me about it, I say like, look, if you have followed me on TikTok where I got my start, but even as I moved through Instagram or LinkedIn or just regular career advice, and I also work in this field. I'm not just a TikTok person, and uh, you know,
good.
if you follow me and you like me, like me and my style, and I wanted that to come through in the book. The little glasses guy that you talk about, right? That is a real icon that's on my website. I use Founders Mirror. I'll shout them out. They were a branding company I worked with a while ago who built my site and all this stuff. Like, they came up with all that stuff for me, and I sent it to the team and our. I forget the name of the title, the person typesetter, the person who like makes your book look like a book. And I was just like, let's work these in some way. And like, I loved how that all came out.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love I mean, as a marketer, I love when things tie together across multiple places. I think it's very smart, and hey, it's economical to
Yeah, I don't know if it can
reuse
come through.
things.
Let's see. So like we have my little like
I
logo
love
there,
that.
and
So
like my
cute.
takes in there. And then at the end of each chapter, there is this like snarky do's and don'ts that has like a pair of my glasses next to each one, like instead of bullet points. So we definitely try to work a lot of that in. So branding all over the place. Evan White would be proud.
I love that.
He should be proud.
Um,
He's part of
That,
it
that's
too.
that's Evan White at evanwhitepr.com for those of you who want to reach out and say, "Hey, Ev, I didn't get a book."
yeah, or hey, Danielle didn't get a book. You should probably send her one.
We
I'm
should send
kidding.
Ben one.
Um,
And yeah, like the comments even say about like A/B testing rather than tired old advice. Yeah, part of my story was that I went through multiple job searches like in this market. So this book comes from being on both sides of the table in this market. And I even call out on the back cover of the book, like, this isn't advice from someone who hasn't sent a resume in since 2009. Right. Like, I know what it's like out there today. I'm not just
in the
rehashing
trenches.
the same. Yeah. Because a lot of job search advice does come from people who were recruiters 15 years ago and then quit to become
Career
a,
coaches.
career coach, and haven't actually hired anyone in a decade. And they don't know what it's like out there today. So I did want that to be
Yeah.
clear. Like, that's not what this is.
I am curious too, like obviously you were working at a company and now you're working for yourself. How, like, as you think about your future, the future of your career, like how does the personal brand factor into that? How does it maybe work in hand with a potential new role, or are you just like kind of that's off the table? I've gone rogue and I've called out all my former employers. Like I'm lighting it all on fire. Like what's your approach to it all?
Great question. Is your question how am I going to pay bills in the future? I do not know. But no, you know what? I'm figuring it all out. If people want a part of that, that's certainly fine. I've been happy the fact I haven't really been working for anyone else for the past 5-6 months, and it's felt great. So everything's on the table, I suppose, because I don't want anything to feel like it was wrong, right? If 6 months from now, an amazing full time opportunity were to come up to me and they're like, you can keep doing all this stuff, but we also want you to build out this startup for us and get this going and do that. And it was exciting to me, I would take it. And I wouldn't want that to feel like I was failing or going backwards because I did that too, right? I want to be open to just what keeps making the most sense to do.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. Staying flexible, staying free. You never know where things are going to lead. That's for sure. All right. Should we move on to headlines? We got a little bit of an exciting update to talk about. So
Let's do it.
let's roll it through. Can't get rid of us that easy. All right. All right, Mike, can you actually Mike, can you share with us what we're talking about today? What is going on with this acquisition in the market? Do you have any experience with Workday? I assume you do. Paradox. What are your guys' takes on this initially?
Yeah, what's funny is I don't have a ton of hands-on experience with Workday. I am marked safe from being on a lot of those lists that may have to be turned over one day. But the main news is that Workday has signed an agreement to acquire Paradox, which is a AI company focusing on candidate experience, and it's the second major merger and purchase happening over the last couple of weeks. So it's making big news. And I think it is kind of leading towards somewhere. Um, I think Brian has probably worked a lot more hands on with Workday
I
probably than
have.
Paradox
I may
recently.
be on a list somewhere.
Probably in the ether.
Well, I mean, like, as we talk about this and as we think about it, right? Like, I think that Paradox has, with Olivia, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, enables a instant conversational engagement with candidates. It supports activities like self-scheduling, answering questions, really giving that personalization to the experience. And I think that it's in an interesting juxtaposition as Workday is coming under fire for their AI biases.
Mhm.
And I agree with Mike. Like, I think this is one of these things where they're trying to bump up their AI arsenal and create that 70 like they brag that that Paradox has a 70% conversion rate of candidates from passive to fully engaged candidates through Olivia. I think that this really is, as Matt Charney put it, that this was the no-brainer, that this was the acquisition that probably made the most sense of the year.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because as soon as I see something like this, right, like Workday, I'm in a funny spot because I spend so much time making content online, and I've so experienced with some of these tools where, like, of course, I make fun of it in the same way a lot of other people do because some Workday jokes are very easy to make, like when you're making content out there. But it also is so popular and works in a lot of companies because it does a lot of things well, and right, it's more than just sort of for recruiting, which is how most people think of it. But Workday's reputation in the job seeking world isn't a good one, right?
Terrible.
And it is sort of bad candidate experience, all of these, kind of issues. So many people saying like, "Oh, I turn around as soon as I see Workday." So you're right that it is a no brainer. That if this allows them to say like, we are implementing and merging and buying companies that make our candidate experience quicker, smoother, better. Uh, you know, Candidates will need to see it, of course, but it's a good spot to at least say that they're moving towards.
Mike, I agree with that full-heartedly. One of the things, though, that you touched on is the pervasiveness of Workday. Josh Burson, in his analysis, Josh said that there was that 70% of companies globally use Workday in their hiring. He didn't qualify
Wow.
that. I think that that's the enterprise. But just when you think about that in the, like you said, the bad candidate experience and how important it is to be candidate first, even in a down market, there's a significant, yes, Steve Levy is chiming in here, significant loss of applicants, right? This is a way to
Mhm.
recapture not only market share, but to recapture the hearts and minds of those candidates, making sure that they're seen and heard.
I think it's a survival move, in my opinion, because you can't survive if you don't have at least also the buy-in from the candidate side. Like, people are just going to turn around and not apply to your jobs. And then, Steve also said Workday is HRIS first. I agree with that, but like, that only works to a certain point, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've tried to explain this side to job seekers. Like I said, I make the memes, I put them out there, the running away from Workday applications and whatever else. But I also need job seekers to understand, because it's important to talk about like the truth of this stuff too. That like or companies are implementing this as an entire HR system because it might be good with payroll and all these other things, and they just sort of throw in this idea of like, oh, we can also handle your applications, and we'll do that for you too. And a CEO or people making decisions might see them at great, a one quick piece of
Well,
software that we can implement. It's not just like recruiters out there like, let's make Workday our system so that everybody hates us and doesn't want to apply. But these moves towards at least the public eye of appearing to be caring and trying to kind of get a better experience out of it. Like, you're right, it is almost a survival thing for them, because eventually, I don't know where the job market's going. I get asked all the time, but eventually, right, a reputation can only take so much damage in the job market.
Very true. Very true. As someone who worked at Paradox's at one point, their competitor, Wade and Wendy, RIP. We love them. I will say this acquisition movement and the news is very exciting to me. I always, from the time I entered this space a couple, not even that long ago, I always thought, why are none of the systems talking to each other? And I think as more of this consolidation continues, we'll see more and more, of this fluidity in the candidate experience, to the employee experience, to the offboarding experience, in the way that, in my opinion, it should have always been designed. And AI will only, help that become faster and better, and, hopefully more effective for everyone involved. But I guess
well,
it's taking
actually,
time.
no. Well, I mean, you talk about the idea that AI is going to make the candidate experience that much better, right? Because it's going to free up those tasks that recruiters don't want to do, like scheduling, right? Did I echo? I echoed. All right. So,
There was an echo.
no, it's all good. I was just like, I hear myself talking, and it's weird, right? Like it's like an inner monologue. But I think that there's a question about the psychological safety that is presented when somebody has this chatbot, and the conversation that really takes place in an organic environment, and how that lends itself. Maybe we'll talk about that later with our good friend Alan with a Lynn from Smart Recruiters. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of part of what we were doing at Wade and Wendy, where we never got to really work on the Wade product, but the Wade product was intended to be more of a career coach. And Wendy was the recruiter, and they were going to work hand in hand at some point. It was, an early stage company. We got acquired at Series A. And so we never got to actually do that. And that's really a shame, because I think the idea that you would have a recruiter, and then for any candidates that weren't a fit or didn't make it, you could pass them on to a AI career coach who could help them navigate, especially with, skills based hiring now. Like, I just feel like that is a huge gap in the market that could have been, it's not that hard. I mean, and I'm saying that from not a technologist, but like, it's like you already have the data. You already have like so much data to work with to help people understand how companies are hiring, like I just feel like it was such a missed opportunity, such a shame that we never got to really work so much on that product. But who knows? Maybe one day we'll have a Wade. There will be a way.
Yeah, you and I connected about that last year too, just in the fact that I knew several of the leaders and technical people there, and there were some very smart people building some very good stuff there. I do
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. Drew Austin, shout out. All right. Well, I think we did a pretty good job of headlining this one.
Definitively.
I think so. It's very exciting stuff over here. And Steve Levy, shout out to you. You are very active in the comments. Keep them rolling. Let us know what you think. Be like Steve Levy. And next, we're going to talk about the event roundup. Conference season. Yay. So excited. I'm going to be on the road a couple times, but Mike, why don't you roll us through some of the events that Purple Acorn is going to be at and covering, and what else is going on?
Yeah, let's chat through some of these. I mean, shout out today to Evan White and John Baldino, who are at SHRM, Florida. They're there from the 24th to the 27th, so they will still be there through tomorrow. If you are there, if you are at the event, go find them, say hi. Evan is probably wearing something that will make it very easy to find him. Yesterday, I believe it was the purple suit. There'll be some red shoes for sure. I think I saw the picture of him in his purple suit yesterday. So see what he's in today. And then the season is heating up. We talked about this at the very start. Summer, a lot of these events slow down. HR Tech is coming up in just a few weeks in Vegas. Purple Acorn will be there at the Virtual HR booth from the 16th to the 18th, and I believe we're all going to be there, right?
I will not be there. I will
You
be
will not
at
be there?
a different conference, possibly,
Ooh, look at
but
you.
we'll see.
I will be doing a panel at HR Tech. I'm very excited.
Yeah, you've got a great
Oh.
panel that you're going to be doing at HR Tech. Like you're going to be with Tin Cup and some other individuals really talking about the advent of social media and how that plays a pivotal role in the candidate experience. Mike, I'm excited to be
Yeah.
in that audience.
So fun.
I'm excited for from TikTok to the ATS and about using social media to attract candidates and bring them in. It's with Lorna and Victoria from Expert Interviewers,
Love.
and one more person whose name I'm forgetting and I shouldn't. But it is a great panel. And William Tincup moderating. So after HR Tech, we are moving on to RecFest, where we will have the Purple Acorn Mega Booth live stream October 15th.
Right when you walk in. We're right
Mega
on
booth,
the right.
mega booth.
Yeah, that is going to be a fun one. RecFest is always a good time. This will be my second RecFest to attend. I think we're going to be live streams all day. A lot of these podcasts happening right from the spot. And hope to see everybody at RecFest. If you're going to be there, let us know in the comments. After RecFest, we are moving on to Unleash World in Paris from the 20th to the 22nd. I will not be at that one.
Brian, are you going to that?
It is a TBD. So in full disclosure, Maddie really wants to go to Paris. Everybody knows my daughter. You follow my content. You know who Maddie is. Maddie really wants to go to Paris. I'm trying to figure out if I'm pulling her out of school or not to go to Paris with me for Unleash.
YOLO.
I will not be in Paris, and I will just be watching from afar and jealous. But I know that we're going to have a great time there. And then on to the double San Diego conferences, ERE from November 4th to 5th.
Who's hosting the San Diego Recruiting Innovation Summit? Who is the host on the line? Oh, it's me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to be that guy.
I was like, I hope he knows the answer to this question.
Yeah, I know. I was like, Mike was like,
is this a riddle?
Yeah, it's a rhetorical question.
All right.
Wow,
Brian
that's
Fink will be
exciting.
there. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to be there with Joel. We're going to have a great time. We've got awesome speakers that are going to be presenting at the conference, having a great conversation. We've got Shally Steckerl, who's going to be talking about the future of executive search. I'm really excited about Mark Hamill because if you're not watching what Mark Hamill at Cruise is doing, I mean, at Waymo. Ooh, sorry, I did not mean to do that. At Waymo, about what he's doing using LLMs for sourcing. It's a missed opportunity. You really want to get in on this.
Super cool. I love that. Are you preparing your jokes?
Jokes? No. The jokes write themselves, right? I don't know. Like, I'll be quite candid with you. I'm a little nervous about this, right? Like,
Oh, you got it,
um,
Ryan.
yeah, well, dude, we're gonna have fun. It's gonna be excellent. You've got Allison Cruz. It's gonna be there. I mean, there's so many speakers, and it's gonna be such an intimate environment. Uh, I can't say enough
So
about it.
fun. I love it. I love it. And then right after ERE, TA week. Not right after, maybe 3 months later.
3 months after. We're all going to take off for the rest of the winter and then
Yeah,
come
we're
back in
just gonna
February
stay
for
in
TA
San
week.
Diego. I wouldn't mind that
3 straight
personally.
months just staying at the hotel in San Diego. I believe the conferences will
Camping
pay
out.
for Brian since he hosted, so he will just
Exactly.
be there for free for 3 months.
This hair will slowly start to fall, right? So, about talent acquisition week, you've got a great week of conversations that are going to be happening in a very organic fashion. Talent acquisition week is one of my favorite conferences to go to. Shout out to Kara and her team. I'm looking forward to presenting, I think, on the Tuesday at 1:30. The topic is going to be the no business. There's no business like the no business, which is the business that we're all in. That's the topic I'm going to be presenting on, about how recruiters are resistant to give out no's when 99% of what our job is to do is to tell people you didn't get the job.
It's a great talk. This will be my first TA week.
Yeah, and it'll be an
Excited.
opportunity to meet a great author and to get your book signed.
So will all these other ones before. Don't wait to February to come get your number one book signed. I'll be at most of these events. But yeah, I'll be my first TA week. I'll be speaking as well on the future. The future of recruiting is old school, is the name, and how, like, no matter what we do, no matter how much we implement, these things that used to work for recruiters forever, that presented good candidate experiences and made people want to come to your company, will not go away and will always be important.
Love that. It's like handwritten cards, not dead.
Jesse Itzler talks about that all the time, right? Jesse, no pressure. I'm looking for you to show up at an HR conference if you're listening.
I would love that. You know, we have so my parents have always had a house on Candlewood Lake in Connecticut. I'm sorry, the secret's out. It's
Hell on a
stunning
hill.
place. It's So they have a house on the same lake. And a couple of weeks ago, when they were doing the whole hill thing, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, Jesse and Sarah, his wife,
his wife is Sarah Blakely, the founder of
Blakely,
Spanx.
founder of Spanx.
She's kind of a big deal.
She's kind of a bigger deal than him, in my opinion, which is cool, in my world at least. And so they do this like crazy, like, I don't know, how do you even explain it? It's like games kind of thing. Like, it's like Hunger Games, but like by the lake. And they have this huge house that has a huge hill going down to the lake. And my mom passed by them while she was, on the water. And she was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "That's Sarah Blakely's house." Like, how do you not know that? So now we know which house it is, which I've been like dying to know for 2 years. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my fun story about Jesse Itzler. Very fun.
So if Adam Posner was here, Adam would riff on the fact that he was the best speaker at Gary Vaynerchuk's conference. But shout out to Adam. We love you. We can't wait for you to come back and for you to be in this seat. Speaking of this seat, let's did we round up all the events?
We did.
We rounded up the events.
Roundup. And I think it's time for our favorite segment, the Global Report.
Well, hello, party people, and hello, Alin. How are you doing this morning?
I am fabulous, and I'm so excited to get to talk to you. I never get to talk to you, Brian.
I know. So we were doing the pre-show, and Alan, who's the producer of the Purple Acorn Show and the Purple Acorn Network, was talking. He was like, "Do you know her?" And I was like, "No." Like, we run in the same circles.
right?
I'm sure that Jerry has invited us both out to dinner and what have you. And no, so we have never done this thing, but we are doing this thing now. And
Exactly.
yes, the thing is happening.
Go. Let's go. This is the perfect. Actually, I'm thinking this may be dangerous for everybody. I have a feeling that this may be the perfect pair up for this.
Okay, so the perfect pair up. Well, I thought the perfect pair up was AI in recruiting and the and how trust kind of filters into the algorithm.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about trust for a minute.
let's talk about trust. Let's talk about all of it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to go into pink. I apologize.
Show tunes, dude. Yeah, no, trust is so important. And I think I've been doing a little bit of work on this lately, looking at a lot of the data that we're getting in and starting to have conversations with individuals who are looking at this, not from the lens of, can I trust technically the output of AI, right? That's getting so much better. We're getting a much better understanding of that, how algorithms work. Are they valid? Can we trust does it, like, if I'm looking at it from a scientific perspective, is it accurate? Sure. The
Okay.
big question is, can humans trust it? And what makes them trust it and not trust it? Right? Because if we're at a point now, and I think we're getting there, where more and more of the AI that we're putting out into the market, particularly transparently in the recruiting and HR space, is technically making good choices and decisions. It is proving to be valid and accurate. What does that mean about how we adopt it, leverage it, and utilize it? And what does that mean about who we are and our ability to trust it and to leverage it? What makes us trust it? And I think that's a fascinating space for us to think about as an industry, because I don't think we're getting away from it. Maybe I'll say this: we're not getting away from it. It's coming. It's here. What does that mean about how we get comfortable with it, and when we decide we're going to become a trusted collaborator with it?
Alin, you put out you started two fires. I want to see if we can either throw some gasoline on the fire or if we can put them to sleep.
Okay.
Um, in your experience, what do you think is the biggest trust breaker when a team adopts AI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there are two trust breakers. I think the first is, if we are able, if AI produces a different result than the one we believe is accurate or most comfortable with, we see it as wrong, and then we don't trust it anymore. The reason I'm saying it that way is what we're finding is, more often than not, it's not that the AI is wrong, it's that it does not fit the way our narrative or the way we would have resolved it or answered the question. This is the bias question, I think, is big on this one. We can kind of go into that at depth. So that's number one. It answers differently than we would want to answer, right? That's the number one
Agree.
breaker. The number two breaker is the amount of repetitive usage that we leverage with it, right?
Huh.
So one of the biggest challenges that we often do when we are implementing new tools into our solution, our tech stacks, is we try and kind of wean them in slowly, right? We're like, we're going to try a little bit here, and then we're going to try a little bit here, and then we're going to try it for this use case and that use case. Psychologically, particularly when we're looking at building connection and relationship with something, which is actually what we need to do with AI, when we piecemeal it in and it isn't like a natural part of the extension of our work, we trust it less, because it feels like an extra or an add-on. It doesn't feel like part of our flow, part of how we operate on a day-to-day basis. That's why it took so long for some of us. I will raise my hand to this day, right? It took so long for some of us to get comfortable in the early days with Teams and Slack. And right today, this is like natural. Like, can you imagine not using it today? Right? That's just part of our everyday piece. But when they first got introduced and we started to put them into the business framework, it was, well, this team may do it for this, but not for all things. We're going to put rules on it. You can only use it for this little piece or type of conversation. Don't have this type of conversation in it. We don't know if it's safe or not, right? So we put all these boundaries on these early implementations, and it creates false narratives in our head about whether or not we can trust this thing that we have.
Okay, that feeds into what the second. Okay, so we poured some gasoline on that. How do leaders balance that psychological safety with automation, ensuring that AI empowers us rather than threatens us, the way the example you gave with Slack?
Well, I don't know if we know the answer. I'm going to be honest, Brian. I don't know if we know the answer to that question.
I'm sorry that I pulled the softballs away and just started throwing
Which went with the
burners.
hard ones right off the bat.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing more and more experimentation with it, and and what we can see is where is it working well, and maybe there are lessons that we can learn from that. Right? We know, right? Let's talk about the expansion and the usage models of the average human around generative AI and how
Okay.
that adoption model happened. Let's see what we can learn from that, start applying that to the larger picture. So, what we learned from that was when people started to have the ability to test and to play with something, to determine for themselves whether it worked or it didn't work. And it started to become ubiquitous because it started to be able to resolve quick, simple answers and solve problems that we didn't know were problems, right? Like, um, make all those things. Like the early stuff was like, can you help me decide which best vacation resort to go to, right? And it would start to provide
Tell my
information.
kid a story, right?
Get a story, right? So we have these experiences, and then we would build on those experiences as they were naturally coming. Why was generative AI easy for us to do that with? Well, because we were trained mentally, because we had all been playing around with Siri and Alexa and whatever the Google one was, right? We got
So many false prophets. Go ahead.
but we had gotten used to talking to our phone or talking to our Alexa and telling it to do things for us. This idea, this conversational rapport was very comfortable. So when we took it from that to the keyboard and started doing it online, it was very easy for us to take that current behavior pattern and adapt it here and then build upon it and do a roll. So think about that when you're bringing AI into your recruiting workflow, right? What are the things people already naturally trust non-humans to do in their natural flow of being? And how do you, right? Okay, right? How you connect those things to their workflow so it feels like a very natural absorption. And then I start because repetition is what creates trust. So I have to get to a space where people are using it more. I'm going to use it more when feels comfortable. It feels comfortable because I can connect it to something I've done previously, even if it's with a different tool. So you kind of have to work backwards in the process. There you go. I got all experience design, psychoanalytic on that.
Dude, that's hot. That's hot. So, I feel like maybe my next question is we're talking about how AI will shape the workplace, right?
Mhm.
How do you think Gen Z and RTO, like, how do you think you got Gen Z, you got RTO. How do you think this is going to shape the future of work in the next 3 to 4 years?
Well, 100. So let's take that analogy I just gave you, right? The
Okay.
more comfortable you are with something, the more likely you are to adapt something that is similar to it and start leveraging it. So what is something we know about Gen Z? They grew up and have a natural affinity towards engaging with technology, right? They leverage it in a way we don't even think about it. I use my daughter, 17, she's gonna be 18. I can't believe that, as an example all the time.
I'm halfway there.
Okay. I remember when the first iPad came out. She was 2 years old, right about there. My husband was so excited, he got one for me. It was like here, you can have an iPad. I literally owned that iPad for like half a second. She grabbed it and she has not let it go since then. She lives inside this digital world. Her friends are equal parts real and digital. Freaks me out, but it doesn't hurt. And her friends and the way they engage are all like this as well. They have a different relationship with technology. They don't separate out technology and humans. They're very co-intermingled. That means their relationship to technology in the workplace is very different to our perception of what I'm old. I'll put my Gen X hat on right now.
Don't say you're old, because if you do, you'll start believing that shit.
Yeah, but I'm not old, but listen, we are experienced with it. We adapt. We're able to see new ways and usage models to do things, but our mental models for how we bring in that tech is very different. Gen Z, as they enter the workforce, as they become more prolific around the workforce, one, their expectation for technologies and technology and humans working together in a very kind of collaborative framework is not only something they're naturally comfortable with, but something they expect. So take note, all of you out there who are trying to find Gen Zers to apply for jobs. They don't operate with the same model that allows them to understand that technology is going to grow, and it's okay if it was crappy, but it'll be fine later. They just assume that it's going to work in the way they want it to work. So
Good enough to try.
that's going to change. So I think the more they come into the marketplace, the more they start to build and be part of teams like ours who are out there building tech and putting it into people's hands, the more it's going to exponentially blow up this idea of how technology fits into the workplace. It's only going to get bigger, faster. And it's going to mean all the rest of us are going to have to figure out how to change our relationship, our psychological relationship with that technology and how it works. It's going to be much more like, I laugh. I talk about my father, 80-some years old today. He is
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. He is very excited about his GPT. He named it Bob. I've been talking to him about it, but he figured it out himself, and he's saying, but he anamorphized it, which is what people will eventually do. That's a process that we go through. Gen Z's already there. They don't have to anamorphize it because they already think of it as equally valid to a human being. Human and tech, equally valid.
You talk about that validity, right? Like, it makes me, and maybe this is our last question, because I know we got like 2 or 3 minutes left, right? So, what do you see are the biggest opportunities for these organizations, and whether it's your dad's generation or whether it's my generation or whether it's Gen Z or Gen Alpha? What do you see as the biggest opportunity for organizations that truly get the psychology that we've talked about today about the AI trust variable?
So I think the biggest thing organizations need to do is to throw out the rule book for how we've thought about bringing in technology or thought about building workflow design and kind of navigating process design. And I think that's a hard thing for me to say, right? I came from the world of people, process, technology, think about it and kind of build that pyramid of infrastructure and then kind of think about how they all play together. I think we have to think differently about how we design these experiences and these processes. And instead of going process first, technology to resolve it, start thinking about process and technology simultaneously. And it sounds like a really nuanced thing, but it does change how you start to design your experience. So instead of going in and figuring out what tech can I put in place to expedite or make the current process I have faster or more efficient and resolve bottlenecks or make things, et cetera. Instead, flip the script and say, with the technology that is available in front of me today, how would I design an experience that I want people to have? And that may mean my entire process is wrong. It may mean that the types of roles I use are completely wrong. I have to instead think about instead of thinking about the toolbox helping tighten the bolts, think about the toolbox helping you build something brand new. 2 different paradigms.
I love that. And Alin, speaking of something brand new, I know I said I had that was the last question, but I've got a request.
Okay.
I got a podcast that's kicking off next month. It's called Finked, right? I'll send you a hat, right?
That's really good.
Alin, would you be one of my first guests on the podcast? Because I'd love to foster this relationship, and I'd love for us to continue the dialogue.
100%. Absolutely.
All right, I'll get Alan on this, and we'll fire this up. Alin, always, like, it's great to talk to you. I'm usually watching. It's so nice to make this connection today. Have an awesome day, and have an awesome 80th birthday for your dad. That's epic.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Bye, guys.
That was so heartfelt.
dude,
That was fun to watch.
no, I had I had a genuine good time. I know that we have bumped into each other at HR Tech, and we've never had a great conversation. We've never had a conversation. We've just been like ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
Speaking of ships passing in the night, though, I don't want this opportunity to pass anybody by. Danielle, what the hell am I talking about?
Well, we are launching a new initiative here on the network. We have several podcasts, as you all know, and we're looking to beef up our review game. So every week, we're launching a new round of this initiative where if you leave a review and you send us a screenshot, you send us proof, that counts as one entry into our giveaway and you could win $100. That's crazy.
That's epic.
So,
It's like free money for doing what you love doing in the
free
first
money.
place.
Free money for doing something free, like giving love, sharing that love, that is free. And if you do that, you get something in exchange. So the way that you enter is you'll go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or both, ideally, and follow any of the Purple Acorn Network podcasts. It could be this one, the HR Morning Show. It could also be From X to Z, which is my podcast that I host with Mervyn Dinnan. It could be any other
Could it
podcasts
be the
on the
Alder
network.
report?
Could be the Alder Report. Not every podcast is on there yet. So just keep that in mind. But if you leave a rating, a review, and you send a screenshot to contact@purpleacornnetwork.com, you will enter this giveaway. And again, every single week we're choosing, it's a new round. So you could do this every week and you could probably win. But I'm not promising anything, but you could probably win if you do this. So, yeah, and then tune into the next week and see if you won. We'll be announcing the winners.
Awesome.
That's it.
Speaking of winners, I know we've got a lot of guests lined up for this morning. So if you're just joining us, stick around. We've got some great guests. Let's kick it over to our next guest. Let's rock and roll. And remember, leave a rating or review on iTunes or Spotify. That's where you can find us, in your ears or in your hands.
Let's do it.
At Humoriso, we're not just another HR consultancy. We're a team of dedicated experts wanting to bring your business forward. Our Humoriso Technology Solutions, HTS, are a different kind of HR tech. Give real-time insights without overwhelming managers with too much data. So whether you're a growing startup, an established company, our human resources outsource support, payroll management are all there to help drive your business forward. So check us out and see what Humoriso could do for you today.
All right, we are back, and I am here for a conversation I'm very excited to have with Nahed Khairallah, who has been leading HR growth at startups for over a decade, and this is very near and dear to my heart if you know anything about me. And Nahed, I have my own podcast. Fink got to plug his, so I have a podcast coming soon as well called Is This Still a Good Time?, which is for recruiters everywhere. And Nahed, I just need to know before we get started, is this still a good time?
Yes, definitely. And happy to
Perfect.
be on.
I'm excited. If you've ever talked to a recruiter, you know that is what they lead with every single time. So I'm really excited because I know I have dug a lot into you because I think your background is super exciting. But for anyone out there who may not know you, may not know what you've kind of gone through, just that brief classic, right? Again, we're talking recruiters here. First interview question. Just tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. So, yeah, I've been in the HR space for the past 15 years. All came from a family of entrepreneurs. Started my first business at the age of 13. I've been a long-time entrepreneur myself, but also have worked with a lot of startups, from accelerators to VC-backed companies and so forth. I've worked with more than 150 companies over my career in different capacities over time, and I've really niched down and specialized in helping companies that are starting to experience some success within the 7-figure mark, around the 20-ish employees and so forth, and helping them grow with people operations and HR to pass the 8 and 9-figure mark and go from there. So I've helped a lot of companies go from early day startups, the exits. Some of them, wanted to be long-time family businesses. So I worked with those kind of companies, worked with nonprofits, VCs, and so forth. So I've been around and done work in the U.S., Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Awesome. That's cool. And then if you can, just so our audience can hear, if you can turn up your gain just a little bit on the microphone too,
Yes.
just to get you kind of a little bit louder there.
Yes. All right.
Perfect. There we go. I don't want to miss the great stories.
You're good.
That's cool. Right? And like I said, a lot of my background has been growing startups and working kind of on that size. Never having the success, right? I'm more on that other side that kind of comes. So it's interesting to kind of see there. I'm curious just because, right? I've seen, and I can talk about some of the common pitfalls so much, but seeing sort of like the wins and the losses come through, like what are those common pitfalls, right? So you're in that hyper growth environment. It's that time. Like, what are the missteps you see people making, and how are you making sure they don't?
Yeah, so I love that question, and definitely I hear it a lot. One of the most common missteps I see is, especially with first-time founders and a first-time founding team, companies that are starting to experience some success, they assume that what got them to that initial stage of success is what's going to get them to that next milestone. And what I mean by that is, initially, when a company decides that it's ready to scale and grow, they have a product or a service that's been a hit so far. The revenue's starting to come in, profitability's going up, so they get excited and they try to do more of the same, but do it with an exponentially larger product base, service base, and so forth, and things start falling through the cracks. What I like to do with companies a lot of times is walk them through different stages, and I call them like your different eras of growth. When you're initially starting out, there's a different operation. When you have 10 to 20 people, it's a very different experience than having 50 to 100 people. Also, when you have 10 customers, it's very different than if you have 1,000 customers. If you're working in one market, it's very different than if you're working internationally now. So the game changes from how you hire to how you structure your organization. And there's one thing I always double down on is you need a solid infrastructure in terms of operating processes and programs of how you're going to run your organization. And a lot of times when founders hear that, they're like, oh my God, here's this person coming in to put in quote unquote process and shackle us. But when you have some predictability in terms of how you're going to operate, it actually frees you up and it helps you actually accelerate your growth. And that is something I've seen a lot with companies. Those who try to duct tape their people operations pieces when it's too late end up failing miserably, unfortunately. So that's one of the most common things I see. The second thing I would say is, which is also pretty common, is with founders themselves specifically. A lot of founders, as the company starts to grow, have a hard time figuring out what are the things that they should pass on to their team versus things they should own completely. Sometimes they hold on to things for too long or just never give them up, or sometimes they delegate the wrong thing. So let me give an example here. If let's say, and most founders today, especially in a knowledge-based economy and tech and so forth, they usually come from either the growth side or they come from the product side, generally speaking. They try to hold on to that part of the business for too long. So if let's say the founder is someone who was a key designer for the product, they try to funnel all design decisions around the product through them when they were a 5-person company, and even if they get to a 100-person company, which becomes, as you can imagine, very unsustainable. It becomes a bottleneck, and they actually kill the creativity of the organization and funnel everything through them. The flip side of that is I've seen also founders, and this is one of the things that I usually caution against a lot, is the whole thought around culture and building the culture of the organization. I've seen way too many founders assume that culture becomes the job of HR or the people leaders who are managing people. That is one of those things that a leader, wherever you are, founder or not, that's one thing you do not delegate. It starts with you, and you're the one who is actually going to lead the way with that, right? So those are some mistakes I see, typically speaking, in almost most companies I've worked with.
Yeah, that's It's a great point, and Trent even threw in the comments, the delegating the wrong things is number one. And I can tell you, I feel like I see it too, and it comes from both sides, right? It's not just the delegating, but then the opposite side of that is refusing to take your hands off the
Yep.
wrong thing. I don't want it to make you tell personal stories because I don't want you to have to call out any specific founders you've worked with for things.
I
But for
could give
someone out there
anonymous
who's even
examples.
yeah, even a totally made up example that nobody has ever done, of course. And for people out there kind of listening, like, how do I get through this? And it's an area I've struggled.
Yep.
So let's say, there's the founder, they won't take their hands off of this area that's bogging everything down. What can somebody do, or like, what have you done? Like, how do you step in and start to work through that with them?
Yes, I can give you an example of an actual case I worked on. This was around 10 years ago, approximately. So this was an organization that had around 50 employees at the time, led by a single founder. And this founder was a product design person. And they were a genius at their work, right? Like they were kind of the reason why the company got to that stage. And this person was just a genius in the product design space that they were designing. Now, like most founders, right, as the company started growing, the founder inherits the CEO position, whereas they're no longer just focusing on design of the product, they're kind of managing the entire business. Now, this individual wasn't really great at managing other things outside the product stuff, right, and didn't have the experience, and this was a first-time founder, didn't have the experience or knowledge of how to handle finance decisions, how to handle hiring decisions, and so forth. So I was brought in through their HR leader, who's someone who I knew from my network, and she explained to me sort of the situation they're having, and they were having issues with scaling. Anytime they tried to grow, open up in a new country, open up a new function, start a new product, all of a sudden it would not work out. And the teams that were hired to do those things end up leaving. Most of the time, they just, leave the organization themselves, like, hey, we're done with this, we can't handle this, they leave. So the company was going through a lot of yo-yos in terms of, growing a little bit, then going back to where they were. And they couldn't figure out why, but they kind of knew there was something going on with the people side of the operation that they just couldn't put their hands on. So I came in and I did sort of like an audit of the operation, and everything pointed to me to the founder. So when I went to the founder, I told him, listen, I have some very good news, meaning like we know what the situation is, but I also have some tough news, which you're probably not going to like very much from me. So I showed the data to this individual and walked him through what I did and how I came. And I also pointed to something I like to do, which I think is very essential for any HR leader, is you need to show the business impact of whatever problem you're trying to look at and solve. And I did that through I looked at all the numbers from the financials of the hirings, the growth, the collapses of the products, and so forth, and just showed this person, this is how much money you've spent into what you've been trying to do. This is how much it's cost you. This is what I'm proposing as a solution, and these are some projected benefits, if you will. So basically what happened is my recommendation was that you should not be the CEO. You should hire a CEO, and you should take a step back and be sort of like the product evangelist, because that is where you shine. That is the value you bring to the organization. You're actually bottlenecking your entire operation by doing all the other stuff. Why don't you just focus on what you love doing and what you're good at doing, and hire someone who knows how to do the other stuff? As you can imagine, this individual did not take this very well at first glance, right? I was yelled at in the meeting. It did not go very well. And then I've been in these situations before. So I told him, listen, I know I told you this wasn't going to be an easy thing to hear, but I'll let you sit on it, right? Sit on it. If you're ready, or if you want to execute on this, just give me a call. It took him approximately 3 months to sleep on it and come back to me. But then he's like, you know what? I am ready to do this because I feel stuck. And hey, if it doesn't work out, we can just go back to how things were. I'm like, there you go. So what we did is I helped this individual hire someone for the role. Within 18 months, they tripled their revenue just by a new CEO coming in. This was someone who knew the industry, someone who's scaled companies before, and took them global within 18 months. So, and now I've been in contact with that company. I worked with them for approximately 7 years after that. helping them with different scaling and all that kind of thing. But even today, this founder wants nothing to do with the executive role. He's actually now chairman of the board. He's not even in the day-to-day operation anymore. Like, he even let go of product now. And it's like, I'm loving it. This is great. The company's growing, and I was the big problem here. So for me, the main takeaway is the most important thing whenever you want to present a solution like this, which is drastic in this example, you need to show exactly where the root cause is coming from, and you need to be able to tie it very clearly to the impact on the business, because that's the only language leaders want to speak. If you don't show me the impact, don't tell me about all this fluffy stuff that I can't put my fingers on.
Yeah, no, that's such a great example, and it was something I was like waiting to hear. I was like, "There's no way that conversation went over well," so I was waiting to hear where that went. But it touches on so much, sort of like the defaultness that a lot of things fall into in startup world. Be like, well, this was my idea, so of course I should be a CEO. It's just like that's a different role sometimes in coming up with the idea and getting to do that. And speaks so much. Yeah, exactly. It speaks so much to just sort of like the HR role and, like you said, making the business case. I think a lot of people forget how much sway over the business case that HR can have and can do. And I would love to talk about so many of these stories. It's amazing how many kind of things we can go through for here. We are going to kind of wrap in a second, but I want to just kind of see, if you had like one piece of advice for people kind of out there listening, like what would you just tell someone trying to get into this spot, right? How do I enter hyper growth mode? The one thing I need to know.
Yes. Hyper growth mode, I think the most important thing is you need to make sure that you are very clear on the objective of your scaling and growth. And what do I mean by that? Scaling, a lot of times when companies decide they want to scale, it's like, hey, we're doing great, let's do more of it. Scaling has to be purposeful. What I mean by that is the following. Are you scaling because you want to enter new verticals and new markets and grow? That's one thing. Are you scaling because you want to get to a point where the unit economics of what you produce are so low to where profitability is higher? Are you scaling? What are you scaling for? Because you're scaling, and from an operational standpoint, has to be built around that main objective. A lot of times when people hear scaling, they associate it with more headcount, more products, more services, more sales. Unfortunately, the trap that most companies get into is, especially on the headcount front, and if you're talking about organizations that are like most today knowledge-based, in most cases, headcount, payroll, expenses account for approximately 70 to 80% of your total operation. So what companies sometimes end up doing is, by scaling, let's throw more people into the mix and hope that they can produce more. What ends up happening is that the expenses you incur on adding headcount, they overshadow the increase in revenue in the timeline. So you need to look at specifically your cash runway, how does it work, and how long can you meet the objective. So part of it's art, part of it's science, but that's I think the main thing I would say. Like, what is the objective of scaling? Why do you want to scale? Because scaling isn't always the default answer, just like you were saying. It shouldn't be a default. Not every company should scale all the time. There are times when you should, times where you shouldn't.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that answer. Nahed, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I love having you on. I definitely love to continue this conversations in ways we can. Maybe like Fink, I'll turn this into another conversation for my own podcast.
Appreciate it.
And at this point, I'm going to toss over to Danielle, who's going to talk to us about our good friend and sponsors, Aaron.
I love that. Well, it's time, guys. We got to give a quick shout out to our friends at Aaron, the employee referral platform, making it way easier to turn your people into recruiters, of all things. If you are still managing your referrals with spreadsheets or email threads or whatever other nonsense you're doing it with, stop right now, because Aaron automates this entire process and makes it very simple for employees to refer great candidates, which, let's be real, most of hiring right now is referral based. And it even tracks bonuses as well for you. So it's fast, it's fun, and your team will actually use this platform. So check out Aaron to supercharge your referral program and head to aaronapp.com/red shoes to join the Red Shoe Crew. There it is, in time for conference season as well. So head to aaronapp.com/red shoes and get your free red shoes today. And I think now it's time for guest number 2. Hello, hello. Hi, Peter. How you doing?
Hello, good to talk to you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Even better now that I'm talking to you. I've been so excited about this interview. I spent yesterday Googling the heck out of you. I found out that you are truly an incredible storyteller. You founded HARO, which I totally used for once upon a time, and now I'm subscribed to your new email list. And I got your the first email this morning, which is exciting. So I'll let you talk about that too. But for anyone who doesn't know who you are, you've written 6 best-selling books. And now you're an advocate for rethinking how ADHD and neurodiversity drive creativity and innovation, which I'm also neurodiverse. It's in my LinkedIn headline. Plus, you're a fellow New York City creative and a proud girl dad. So I'd love to see that as well. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's good to be here. Are you from New York?
I am born and raised Upper West Side. I
Where'd
went
you go to high school?
I went to Heschel.
It's okay. Public school. You're representing public school. Gotta rep the public school thing here.
Gotcha. Yeah, I respect that. I respect that.
Now, grew up 95th of Columbus and went to LaGuardia and live on 42nd and 9th. New York is the only place where 35 years after you graduated high school, you can still see your high school, but it doesn't mean you've done nothing with your life.
That's actually very true. I love that. I love that take. I've never heard that before.
So, yeah, always nice to meet another thoroughbred. But yeah, so I mean, my story's pretty easy. I started my career. I had one job in my life. I worked for America Online back when the AOL was the internet. Back in the 90s, I helped launch the AOL newsroom with a journalism degree from Boston University. Did that for a while. Eventually moved back to New York City in late 90s. Launched a PR firm called the Geek Factory. We repped all the .com darlings, Napster, Juno, AOL, you name it. Had a blast. Sold it. Tried to take a year off. Learned that I didn't know how to relax. Eventually came back. Tried to take a year off in Asia. Really lasted 3 weeks. Came back to New York. Started consulting. Started speaking. And speaking put me on planes a lot. Being on planes a lot meant that if you were next to me on a plane, unless you faked your death, I was going to know everything about you by the time we landed. That led to a huge Rolodex, and reporters started calling me on a regular basis saying, hey, I need a source on whatever. Who do you know? Eventually, I started something called HARO, Help a Reporter Out. That got acquired by PR Newswire about 3 years after I launched it. It was then a company called Vocus. They acquired it. Vocus acquired it. Cision owns it now, I think. They shut it down a few months ago. But kept getting a lot of emails from people saying, hey, that thing you sold sucks now, and it's your fault. I'm like, I haven't run it in 15 years. It's not my fault. And they're like, well, you need to start it again. So eventually I did because I think I had an afternoon free and I have massive ADHD. So I'm like, let's do that. And so I started it again. We have about 50,000 members now that receive 2 emails a day with queries from the Associated Press, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Forbes, CNN, you name it. And if you can answer those queries, you reply directly to the reporter. It's called Source of Sources. It's at sourceofsources.com. It's 100% free. We're supported by a very small text ad at the top of each email. It's we're sold out on ads until I think mid-October. Having a lot of fun with it. It's fun to be sort of back doing what I'm doing. But I'm also a keynoter. I also have written several books, 2 New York Times bestsellers. My biggest one by far is called Faster Than Normal, which is the premise that neurodiversity in all of its forms is a gift, not a curse. ADHD is a gift if you know how to use it and understand what it's good for. All of my success is because of, not in spite of, my ADHD. And so when I finally got diagnosed in my late 30s, I'm like, oh, all this shit makes sense now. And I've set up a whole bunch of life rules that I have to follow or else I don't do well. And so it's basically about sort of understanding how your brain works and making sure that you put up, you can go 200 miles an hour all the time if you've put up the right guardrails. And businesses are starting to understand that now. Corporations are starting to understand that now. I started another company called Mental Capital Consulting, which I founded with a psychologist. And together we work on helping companies like Morgan Stanley, Adobe, and Google better understand how to embrace their neurodiverse employees, how to become more neuro-inclusive as a whole. And it's wonderful because we see tremendous results. We see, increased revenues, increased productivity, simply by doing very, very basic things, working with companies to help them understand that not everyone works the same way. And if you give leeway not only to neurodiverse employees, but to neurotypical, regular employees to work the way that best suits them, that will do much better for your company. We've done countless case studies of things we've done that we've helped companies implement and seen dramatic differences. It's funny, neurodiversity works from a personal perspective as well as from a corporate perspective. And the problem is most of the CEOs currently running old school traditional companies are not neurodiverse. They're very neurotypical, and they've sort of run this way the past 100 years because that's how it was taught to them. That's how it was taught to their successors, predecessors. And so being able to sort of flip that switch a little bit, I have, anyone I've ever dated or been with in my life, my ex-wife, they had very normal lives. They woke up, they took a shower, they came out, they stood in front of their closet, said, oh, maybe I'll wear that dress or that sweater. That looks really nice. I'll try that on. And they'd go about their day. I have a closet that has two sides to it, and they're labeled. And the first side says office/travel, and it's t-shirt and jeans. And the second side of the closet says TV/speaking, and it's button-down shirt, jacket, and jeans. And I look at my calendar, and my calendar says, hey, you're in New York today. You're not leaving the house, or you're not, going on TV, or you're not speaking. You can wear a t-shirt and jeans. And the reason I do that is because if I had all my, my suits, my vests, my sweaters are all in my daughter's closet, because if they had to be in mine, I'd come out of the shower, I'd look, oh my God, that sweater. I remember that sweater. Laura gave me that sweater. I wonder what happened. It's 3 hours later. I'm naked in the living room on Facebook, and I haven't left the house. So you understand sort of how your brain works, and you put up ways to govern yourself accordingly.
How did you learn how to do that? Like, I'm just curious. Is it all self-taught, or is
all
it
self-taught? I didn't, I said, didn't get diagnosed in my late 30s, but spent the first almost 40 years of my life wondering why I could start and sell companies for millions, but couldn't make my marriage work, or remember to take out the trash, or have a conversation where I didn't say something awkward. Eventually, I learned that if I do certain things, put certain rules into play, and live my life in a certain way, I can have 99% of the good stuff of neurodiversity and only about 1% of the bad stuff. I don't drink. It's not that I'm an alcoholic. It's just that I don't have one drink. I have several drinks. The best way to put it for someone neurodiverse is they tend to have two speeds and only two speeds. And those two speeds are namaste and I'll cut a bitch. And there's no middle ground there. Right. So that means that we can do incredible work and work for 12 straight hours, hyper focusing on one project and get it done. But at the result of my dog sitting here and going, hey, you were supposed to feed me 6 hours ago and I'm kind of getting hungry. Or at the result of, holy crap, I was supposed to have a dinner with my girlfriend and 6 hours later and I missed it. So we put certain rules into play. I have a prescription for an ADHD medication, a stimulant. I take it perhaps 3 or 4 times a month. I take it on days that my assistant, who controls my calendar, puts the words on the top of my calendar that says pill day. And if it says pill day, that means I have a minimum of 4 meetings that day. And she tries to keep them maybe once or twice a month, 3 times a month. But if I have 4 meetings, I need something to help me focus, because no one wants to get through 4 meetings in a day. Right. So I'll take a pill. Otherwise, I have a very stringent set of rules that usually involve me waking up around 4 a.m. every day, either getting on the Peloton or lifting weights or swimming or doing something to give me the dopamine that allows me to then focus, to be a good dad, to do all those things that are important. So, it's really about knowing yourself, and then about aligning yourself with a company or a brand or a corporation or somewhere you work that understands that and allows you to work the best way possible, because they know that there are benefits to you and benefits to you generating better productivity for the company if they let you.
Yeah. It's really fascinating too, because I'm reading a lot about, my generation, Gen Z, wanting to actually go to the office, 3 to 4 days a week because they're lonely. And I think part of that loneliness too is also maybe they're not super productive when they're alone, or they don't know how to manage their schedule. And maybe a lot of them do have ADHD or other sorts of neurodiversity challenges. And I think it's really incredible to be surrounded, even in just this conversation. I feel like I'm learning so much, be surrounded by people who have more experience with their own neurodiversity and are able to, just by watching you probably in a day, I would learn so much about how to even navigate my own neurodiversity.
Well, I mean, you got to realize I don't know how, I think you're a little younger than me, but I'm 53 and I grew up in an environment in the 70s and 80s in public school in New York City where it wasn't ADHD, it was sit down, you're disrupting the class. And
Yeah.
I was told for the first 39 years of my life that I'm broken, that there's something wrong with me, that I am not gifted or special, that I am difficult. And had to spend the next however many years I've still been alive since that in therapy undoing that. And it's very difficult to do that. If we can start teaching kids who are 4 or 5 years old now that they're not broken, that they're gifted, they won't have to spend the next 25 years in therapy undoing that damage. And so, for me, it really comes down to wanting to help companies, just not only to help companies succeed, but to help people. I wrote a children's book called The Boy with the Faster Brain that came out about a year ago. And the whole premise behind The Boy with the Faster Brain is, hey, you have a race car brain. You're going to be faster than everyone else, but you got to learn how to drive it because you're currently in a world where everyone drives a small little Honda. If you are taught specifically to drive your race car brain, you can go 200 miles an hour and do incredible things without crashing into a wall. And there's unfortunately a lot of, we live in a society where instead of teaching skills, we give pills. And again, I'm not anti-med, but we put a kid on pills on ADHD medication to 5 years old. And by the time they're 25, now they're off their parents' insurance because America. And now they don't have any way to do that, but they haven't learned anything. They haven't learned how to deal and how to manage their ADHD or how to manage their neurodiversity to be better in the workplace or whatever. And so now they're on their own. And, I don't have the medication. I don't have the money to spend $600 a month on medication. I'll start drinking. Or, I tried cocaine once. That was kind of like it. Maybe I'll do more of that, and it's not. So we have a lot of work to do. But to start to see Gen Z and Gen Alpha come out and say, yeah, I'm ADHD or I'm neurodiverse and I'm proud of it, is beneficial. We need a lot. There's a lot more work to do. And unfortunately, current administration is setting us back by many, many years, but hopefully we can continue to move forward with that and to help companies understand that neurodiversity is actually a gift for their business.
Especially, and especially given that so many people are finding out about their diagnoses later in life. Now there's this awareness that I think a lot of people might not have had. Maybe the boomer generation has a lot less of, or maybe just has less empathy towards because they, don't know, and they were told that they were,
My favorite story is the guy who told me, an older gentleman who I was friends with told me that in my day we didn't have ADHD. There were no autistic kids. And then he spent 3 hours showing me his stamp collection, which had every single stamp from 1920 on meticulously labeled in fire and dust proof plastic, and how I wasn't allowed to touch it because it had to stay right there. Right, sir. I'm sure that autism didn't exist when we were a kid. So it's but back then, in his mind, it didn't, the same way ADHD didn't for me. I knew I was different, but I had to hold that in. And it's wonderful to see kids, and especially younger children now, younger kids, younger adults, coming out and saying, yeah, this is part of who I am, and this is what makes me different and better, right? And faster than you, and I can do more than you. And so, the future is now in that regard. It's nice to see. It's nice to see certain segments of industry pick it up, and certain segments of society start to run with it as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you were to ask everyone listening to maybe do one thing today to support you, to encourage the work that you're doing, pass on the message, what would it be?
Well, if anyone wants to get free press twice a day, joining sourceofsources.com is a 10-second way each day to do that. It's a quick free email newsletter at sourceofsources.com. But also, I'd say, look at that guy in your office, or look at that woman at your gym or whatever, who might seem a little different, or is really in there. The person in the gym who's really getting into their music and bouncing into it, they're not weird. They enjoy the dopamine. They're doing it for a reason. Introduce yourself. You'll learn a lot.
Love that. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much, Peter, for joining us. And I hope we can continue the conversation soon.
Anytime.
All right. Bye.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's great to be back. How about we dive into today's HR weather forecast? And it's a little bit controversial, or maybe not, because we've been talking about this for forever, ever since AI came out. Is should we leverage AI in interviews? And it seems like we're heading into a direction where AI will become commonplace and accepted in job interview. I'm not sure on every role, but there's definitely some roles that this is going to happen. So a couple of weeks ago, Meta announced that they're testing AI assisted coding interviews. I think it makes sense for coding. So candidates will now have access to an AI helper during technical assessment. So why is Meta doing this? Well, the first thing, it reflects that real developer environment because we know engineers are really using AI, and actually they're encouraged to use AI. It makes like those secret AI cheating less effective. Like we've all seen it. I think we've all seen the TikToks of people cheating on their interviews leveraging AI. So why hide it? Just go with it. Also, as we talked about, we definitely know that AI is being leveraged. So why not test how good the coders and the engineers are in leveraging AI in their and how they use it on a day-to-day basis. So Mark Zuckerberg is going full speed ahead with AI and his dev teams. He feels by 2026 AI could function like a mid-level engineer. I know we've heard a lot about that. We've seen teams actually built out and then they eventually hired a whole team again. But I do think it's definitely going down that road. They do feel, Mark also believes that most of Meta's code will be written by AI, which he hopes that will free humans to do creative work. But not everyone in the industry is following this trend. So Anthropic actually is banning AI interviews, or they have banned AI interviews. And it also raises the question, are we hiring true engineers or really just good AI prompters? I guess we will see. Time will tell. So keep your umbrellas handy because the hiring climate is shifting fast. AI is becoming a huge part of the interview itself. And I, for one, think it makes a lot of sense. So that's the HR weather. Let's get back to the panel. Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome back,
Surge.
Surge.
Oh, I missed most of this show. I'm busy working. Then I came in and I see these lovely faces. So, Mike, first of all, congrats. I actually read your book. I went on vacation and I live in a world that that I need to understand the job seeker, building tech.
Mhm.
And this was one of the best books. So, congrats on the launch. And Mr. Fink, it's always good to see you. And Danielle, you know how much I love you. So, it's
I
good to see
know.
you.
I take up the most space in your heart.
Oh, you do, you do. So what do you guys think? Should we be leveraging or should we be allowing people to leverage AI during interviews?
Can I ask a contrarian question?
Yeah.
Why do we allow companies to record interviews, but we don't allow candidates to record interviews and use AI to coach themselves to a better place?
Well, that's a good question. Do we not allow candidates to record interviews? No one has
I
ever
think that's
raised
a
that
company
question.
specific thing. I've seen
Yeah.
that question come up. A lot of times I think it has to do with like proprietary information or things, right, that you
Yeah,
discuss in an
fair enough.
interview that you don't want a candidate having a recording of.
Well, if you sign an NDA, then
Sure.
that's applicable. But like if you're having a conversation where it's just like, I hate to use the phrase getting to know you because I think getting to know you interviews are a trap. And Mike, you talk about that in the first 90 pages of the book. Um, yeah, I just wonder if salespeople can use Gong as a tool to coach themselves to be better salespeople, could candidates in fact record interviews to be better? Because like Mike, again, and I'm not here to plug Mike's book. I already did that the other day and what have you. But the fact
More.
of the matter, okay. So Mike, the question that I asked to doppelgang onto Surge is where does it become less fair for somebody who is AI enabled in the interview? Where does it become less fair for them to have an extra hand when you're playing liar's poker?
I mean, I'm all for all of this, right? I'm for all of these things. But I
Yeah.
think like the letting candidates do it has to be company specific. I just think they have to ask in advance. I think that's really important. But I mean, I go and I give talks. A lot of these talks I do at events are based on like why we should be allowing this and ways to do it. Now Meta's going to steal all my steam and this won't be like an original idea anymore. But like I'm all for it because I think you have to interview people similar to the way they're going to work and in
Yeah.
the environment that's going to be there. And it's so silly to not allow them to use these tools that you want them to come in and be good with. So why not set up environments where they can use them the way you want, control them, see how they use it together, how you'll be using it at work, versus them trying to like sneak it by you in some way. I just think it's adapting to the reality. Like it's almost like, you know, when I was in high school during the time that the internet started kind of like becoming so big, right? And there was all this like, are you allowed to go online and do research or like do all this stuff? And it just kind of became the question of like, yeah, why would you stop it? Let's figure out how to do it correctly.
Right. And I would also add, you know, what becomes then maybe what you ask them for is what did you prompt the LLM to do?
Yeah.
And how to, you know, the prompt design, that whole process is going to, and it is becoming its own career in itself, or at least a role. And I do think that it's important, you know, to consider, like you said, Mike, what is the foundation, or what will be the foundation of these types of jobs, and like what is maybe the minimum requirement, and letting people, if they are capable and are at that level, whether they are using AI on a day-to-day basis or they need to for the job, why wouldn't you evaluate them from that point?
100%. I think it just makes sense. And I love that example, Mike, because if you think about, I too was in high school when the internet came out, and initially we couldn't leverage it for research. We still had to leverage like the different books. We had to
You had
go
to go to the
find old
library and read a
textbooks.
real encyclopedia.
Books.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we had to
The
read books.
library.
My God, those days were tough. And it just didn't make any sense. And I don't think it makes any sense now. But I guess it depends. Are you leveraging AI in your role every day? And I think more and more, most roles you are. Like I'd be really conscious if I went into someone's Chat GPT or Claude account, and if they have not leveraged AI in their work in the last week, I'm like, what are you doing? You're kind of like, you're wasting a lot of time that you could get the answers that you're looking for a lot quicker. It doesn't seem really efficient to me, but that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I could talk on all this for a really long time, but I also know we have been chatty. You brought me and Fink on as guests, and we elongated every conversation by so much, and are going to get in trouble. Do need to move and remind one more time, right? We let's hear us talk about this stuff on podcasts more, and the way to do that is to win yourself $100 every single week. So don't forget our new Purple Acorn contest. We can go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow any of the Purple Acorn podcasts, HR Morning Show, Danielle from X to Z, the upcoming FinkedIn, or um, upcoming my podcast. And is this still a good time? Leave a review, send screenshots, and every week we'll be giving away $100.
I love it. Well, thank you both for joining this week and filling in. Happy belated birthday to Joel. It was Joel's birthday yesterday, so if you want to send him a happy birthday message, it is not too late. You can still do it. And thank you again to Erin, to Smart Recruiters for joining today. And also, please follow us on LinkedIn, other platforms, subscribe to our YouTube. And if you want to see more Purple Acorn, you can head to purpleacornnetwork.com and join us again every week, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. Have a great one, everyone.
Bye.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye, guys.